Hi, this is Scott Arnaud, and we're here to discuss some basic security awareness. Today we're going to talk about using encryption. Encryption protects data by using an algorithm to scramble it until it is then decrypted or unscrambled. Now, the regular text is referred to as plain text or clear text, and the scrambled data is called ciphertext, and it will look like a jumble of letters, symbols, and numbers, and will be unreadable, which is the whole idea. This can be done while data is in a few different states. Data at rest is basically in storage. Data in motion is something you're sending from place to place, and data in use is what's in front of you. Data in use is decrypted, otherwise it wouldn't be terribly helpful to you because you wouldn't be able to read it. Now, cryptographic algorithms will use a key or multiple keys to encrypt and decrypt the data. And the key will interact with the underlying encryption algorithm to scramble and unscramble the data. The algorithms themselves are often publicly known, and the encryption keys are the secret part. A way to think of this is sort of like knowing the brand and model of a physical lock won't allow you to open it without the actual key or the combination. Now, this can be done, like I said, one key or multiple keys. Just a quick tip, you may hear the terms symmetrical or asymmetrical cryptography. Symmetric just means it's the same key used to encrypt and decrypt. That's often used for data because it's a lot faster. Asymmetric is if you need to keep something secret, it's a lot more mathematically involved, so it's slower. But that's where there's two different keys, and that can be used to do a number of different things to protect data, and it's generally harder to break. And there's what's called a private key and a public key, and the public key, say you'd use that, let's say you're trying to send me something, I give you my public key, you can use that to encrypt something, and I, with the private key, am the only one in the world who can decrypt it. So a key thing when looking at encryption is something called key management. And that's the secure use and storage of those encryption keys. And that's the single biggest vulnerability of any encryption scheme. Encryption, by the way, is not actually, literally speaking, a preventative measure. It's really a delaying method, because any encryption scheme can be broken eventually with enough time and resources. But often it's easier for an attacker to target weaknesses in the implementation of that scheme rather than the actual algorithm itself, or trying to break the key, so to speak. This can mean something like you're scoring your keys, but you're putting in an account with a weak password. They get to the password, they get to the keys. Generally, this is something like poor key management, like I'm talking about. It could be done via social engineering, whereby they trick someone into giving out this information by, say, pretending they're someone they're not. Or what they can also do is, let's say that you've got your encryption set up perfectly and it's sent to a device that itself is not secure. This is called endpoint security. Endpoints are the part of a network we really interface with, like laptops, computers, mobile devices, printers, whatever. Those are endpoints. And if an attacker can compromise one of those, they can steal data that way. Basically, once it's decrypted to be data in use. Now, you want to make sure you're encrypting your computers and devices because that keeps them safe. Now, there's what's called full disk encryption versus file-based encryption. What do I mean by that? A full disk will encrypt the entire computer. However, the only thing with full disk encryption is that it really only encrypts when it's turned off. So when it's turned on, everything's decrypted. A file-based encryption will encrypt certain files, and they need to be decrypted as they're used. That's safer, but it's also slower and more resource intensive. Now, for full disk encryption, there are a number of options available. Two that are built right into your systems are, if you have a commercial version of Windows, you'll have something called BitLocker available. And if you have a Mac, you'll have File Vault 2. Both of them can be set up, and they're not hard to do, and they'll encrypt everything in the background, full disk, like I say. Also, for your phone, and also your phone backups, you'll want to encrypt as well. That'll generally be right in the device settings. You look, you'll encrypt, no problem. And if you're using an iPhone, typically speaking, it'll be encrypted by default so long as it's a newer model. Also, relating to this, the data in motion idea, encrypted messaging apps can be used, and there are a few good ones out there. My personal favorite is one called Signal, and there's also encryption which has been added to some very popular communications apps right now, offering what's referred to as end-to-end encryption. That means it encrypts at the sender and then decrypts at the recipient. And the data payload, so to speak, the actual message itself, stays encrypted through the whole journey. And two that have that now are Viber and WhatsApp, which are both pretty popular. Now, as for email, there's an old cliche in information security that email is about as secure as mailing a postcard. It's because of the way email works. You basically hit it, it goes out to a centralized computer in your network called a server, and then it bounces from that to a number of different points over the internet to the recipient's centralized email server and then to them. And if it's not encrypted, any step along the way it can be read. So that's not so good. However, in the wake of the revelations from Edward Snowden, a number of good encrypted email services are now available. I'll put a link along with this video where you can look to see which ones are out there that might fit your needs. And also, one other thing, if you're dealing with an organizational network and you're logging in remotely, you should probably use what's called a virtual private network, which in effect acts like a secure tunnel between where you are and the network you're communicating with. Basically sort of encrypt, and then in between, it's safe. Once again, my name is Scott Arnaud, and if I could be of any help with this or related areas dealing with security awareness, please feel free to contact me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or directly at scott@thesecurityadvocate.com. Thank you, and stay safe.